I'm going to show you exactly how to do dry point etching printmaking, perfect for a high school art class or artists at home. First, you're going to need a surface to etch or scratch into, and I'm using these plastic sheets that you can purchase on Amazon, and you do need to remove both sides of the plastic. Dry point etching is great because it's just like drawing, it's just elevated. So I'm going through an old sketchbook of these from life contour drawings I did of my family members and pets. And I think I'm going to do this almost 20-year-old drawing I did of my dad from life. And I'm taping over it, and then I'm going to use, to start with, a needle tool to scratch or etch into the surface. Although I had physically scratched the surface, when I put it under black paper to test, I really couldn't see a lot of my lines, and I knew it wasn't ready to print, but I did it anyway just to see what would happen, and this is what happened. So I'm going to go back in and rework my lines. I can scratch harder with the needle tool, or I can use these calligraphy nibs that I have in my classroom. These work fantastic. You can see such a difference in the line work here. It is a little annoying. My students felt either it was oddly satisfying or kind of a sensory nightmare, and this was my absolute favorite tool to use. I even had students use nails, and that worked perfectly. As long as you have something that's easy to hold that will scratch into your surface, you're good to go. As far as your design, just like a drawing, you want to think about line variety, line weight, areas of dark and light, and when it looks the way you want it to print, that's when it's time to add your ink. This ink is absolutely the best, and you can clean it up with soap and water. So I'm going to apply with a palette knife to my surface, and you really don't need a lot of ink. You're going to spread it out so it gets into all your cracks and crevices. You can do this with a paint scraper, a palette knife, old gift cards, and once your surface is covered, you're going to use a tarlatan fabric, which is an open weave fabric used for printmaking, and form a pouch, and then very lightly in a circular motion, you're going to start to wipe away, but also push the ink into your carved areas. Make sure that your gloves are clean because your fingerprints are going to get on the back of your acrylic sheet, and don't forget to clean the back as well. Once it looks the way you want it to print, that's when you know it's done. So my students went in with Q-tips, they wiped away areas with paper towels, or they let their prints just get really dingy, which can be really fun. And when it looks the way you want it to print, that's when you run it through the printing press. You do need to use a printing press with this technique. This is a little bit more of a materials-based process. So I'm lining it up on my small printing press I have at school, and I'm using a BFK Rives printmaking paper. It does need to soak for 10 minutes, and then you're gonna dry it with a towel and blot it until it's not shiny. Make sure your hands are clean at this stage. You could see those little gray fingerprints on my paper. Then you're gonna set that on top, and you're gonna run it through the printing press. You do need to make sure that your press is set to an even setting. I had 10 on both sides, and I did have to experiment a couple times. Then I roll it through, and sometimes I would run it through the printing press twice each direction just to make sure I got a good print. And then it's time for the big reveal. Yes, so satisfying. So this is what it looks like. So what I'm going to do now is, what if I add a little bit more ink right away? So I still have that paper ready for me. I added, as you can see, a tiny bit of ink, and then I spend less than 5 minutes adding and wiping away so that I can print again. So if you're doing this in a classroom setting, you can have a whole assembly line of this process. So this is printing right after printing once, adding just a little bit more ink. I felt like the face was a little too white. I wanted the face to have some more areas of gray because I don't love the line work I did around my nose. So now I have my paper ready to go, lining that up on my set scale that I inaccurately measured, rolling it again through the printing press. I call this driving the boat when my students do it. I did it 2 times just because, why not? Rolling it back through, and then it's time for the big reveal. Let's see if I like this one more. Peeling it off. Yes, so I love that gray look. For what I was going for, I like this one better. So I'm going to do something called a ghost print next, and this is where you just print a second time without adding any ink at all. So in less than 10 minutes, I already have 3 prints that I'm happy with. And something that's really fun to do, especially with the prints that you call a mistake or maybe a ghost print, is to go back in as a monotype and add a water-based media on top. So this is what the ghost print looks like. It really has a nice quality to it, even though I didn't add any more ink. And I was able to create a very diverse body of work, experimenting with photo paper, markers, watercolor. We even printed on watercolor paper. You can go back in and draw. And although you do need a printing press, you do need to use nice printmaking paper, you do need to soak it in water, you get such a broad variety of results, and you can keep it super classic, or you can go back in with colored pencils. This student used pastels in the top center, top bottom use oil paint, and I am so happy that I purchased these materials so I could experiment with my students in my classroom. Thank you so much for sticking around and making art with me, and if you're interested in more tutorials, check these out.